And I said, oh my God, you really slapped your knee. Like you really slapped your knee when you were laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But couldn't you see, like, if you called up Seinfeld and said, okay, Sad Topper, they'd be all over that shit.
You might.
Sad Topper? Come on. They have Close Talker.
It's pretty funny.
Did you ever see Close Topper?
Yeah?
Close
No.
Talker?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When she gets all close to the tall, skinny guy, and he's like this.
Yeah.
He's like trying to get away from her so bad.
Have you seen the Jerry Seinfeld's web thing, comedians in cars getting coffee? He just goes and like picks up, like I did yesterday. I picked you up and drove around, except they drive and get a coffee, and it's like fucking the guy who played Kramer or Ricky Gervais or a couple of guys you never heard of. And then once he goes to Mel Brooks's or Carl Reiner's house.
Yeah.
It's Carl Reiner's house, and Mel Brooks is there because he lives next door. And they're just like these two old guys in this old guy's house. It's not like everybody else has these like, you know, you see these celebrity things, and their houses are always like, what the fuck? It's like a fucking fairy kingdom.
It's like a compound.
Or whatever, but it's like inside, it's just like unbelievable.
Fairy kingdom's
like,
good.
Yeah, it's like a fairy kingdom cottage.
Yeah,
right?
fairy kingdom.
It's not even the real big house.
Fairy kingdom.
And then you go to Carl Reiner's house, and it's just looks like my grandmother's old apartment, right?
Oh, really?
Everything's really close and convenient, and they're just sitting there watching TV, eating whatever the fuck they're eating off of little folding trays like your grandma had, and it's like, that's Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks.
Can
right?
you scrap up a little cash?
What more do you need, though, right? It's like, Jesus. I mean, when you're 80 years old, I bet you don't want the bathroom to be too far away from where you're watching TV.
No, I don't want it to be far away from me now. I'm like, Kate, get the jar.
Yeah. That's an option.
You know what? Recently...
But when you're really rich, you can
4 months, Mel Brooks did an interview with Dick Cavett.
Oh, cool.
I have never fucking laughed.
Dick Cavett's the shit.
He is the shit. And he was telling all these stories about, he had Fred Astaire in his car, okay?
You tell me
Did I tell this one?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me again. That's great.
So they're in the car together, and he's interviewing him, and he says, you know what? Katharine Hepburn said that you gave Ginger Rogers class, and Ginger Rogers gave you sex appeal, and he goes, Katharine Hepburn's a fucking bitch. But they're like at an intersection and the windows are open, and like all of a sudden these two women see him and they're like going up to the car. They're like, oh my God, it's Dick Cavett and Fred Astaire, and they're like all happy, and they get up to the car, and then Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire's like, she's a fucking bitch, and they're like, oh, maybe we should back up. But Mel Brooks is telling all these stories about Alfred Hitchcock, and I guess everybody called him Hitch.
Yeah.
And he said, he just had one story after another, and he had all these Groucho Marx stories, and he was so happy that he called him Chico, because I always thought his name was Chico.
Chico, yeah.
And it's Chico.
Yeah.
And he introduces him to Tallulah Bankhead at a party. Groucho Marx does. And he's got
Dick Cavett? He introduces Dick Cavett to...
No. They're at a party. Groucho Marx is at a party.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tallulah Bankhead's movie's just come out. She's like a massive star.
Yeah,
and
she's a massive star.
Her, right? And he says to Chico, okay, I'm going to introduce you to Tallulah Bankhead, okay, but just please try and remember, you know, she's a lady.
She's a class dame.
Yeah, she's a class act.
Yeah.
And I want you saying...
None of that Lower East Side shit, Chico.
Yeah. Keep the gutter stiff to yourself. And he's like, what? I don't know how to be polite. I don't know how to be polite.
Right.
I'm polite. I know how to behave.
I got 9 wives.
And he goes, Chico, this is Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead, this is Chico. And Chico goes, hey, I want to fuck you. And she says, and you shall.
No.
Because she was one to take a joke.
Yeah. Well, and she might have been a bit of a dirty girl. Who knows?
She was a bit of a dirty girl.
Right. If you're a good actress, right? If you're a good actress.
She was a seriously heavy drinker. And I knew this Irish guy, John White, who could just spin a yarn. There wasn't anything that came out of his mouth that wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
So he tells me the story about Tallulah Bankhead getting like shit-faced in New York. She's all drunk, stumbling around, and it's like getting to be early, and she's like, oh, fuck. So she's going to look for some place to pass out. She walks in this building, she passes out, right? She's like passed out on a bench. She wakes up, and she's in the middle of a Catholic service. And she's like, oh, fuck. And she doesn't really know where she is, and the incense guy, what do you call him?
Censor? I don't know.
The priest is going by that stinky thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As soon as she wakes up, she sees the priest and the incense thing, and she looks over him and goes, love the gown. By the way, your handbag's on fire. And just passes out again.